Do you enjoy platformers? Do you want to play a game that embodies the feeling and style of some of the biggest platformers from the 2000s, but refined in such a way that it stands up with games of new? Then look no further than Pumpkin Jack, a game developed over the course of 4 years by one person and released around Halloween. I went in and was blown away, from smooth combat to an engaging story and movement that felt responsive and refined. This game had it all. So join me as we make our way through swamps, the far north, and barnyards as we terrorize the countryside. Imagine living in a world where everything is going so well that the devil himself is bored. So in an effort to spice things up, he calls upon the Night of Eternal Darkness, a spell that allows creatures like skeletons and ghouls and ghosts to terrorize the land. But the humans have an ace up their sleeve. A powerful wizard claims to know the way to destroy the curse and return back to the land to its boring lifestyle. The devil, realizing he's on the back foot, recruits Jack the Pumpkin King, a trickster by nature who's even known for tricking the devil even once or twice. So striking a deal with Jack to clear him of his past misdeeds, he sets him out to stop the wizard and plunge the world back into chaos. Now, if you remember any of those classic mascot platformers from the early 2000s like Crash Bandicoot, Ratchet & Clank, or Jak and Daxter, this game will feel right at home. In a world that appears to be pulled straight out of the minds of Tim Burton, you'll traverse through landscapes that'll have you destroying cemeteries, sacking a castle, or even taking the fight to the North Pole. A level plays out as you getting a bit of info on the locale and explaining the task at hand. As you progress further into the level, you'll come across checkpoints to revert back in case of your untimely demise, or in case you missed that platform you were jumping to. But while doing so, make sure to keep an eye out for secrets scattered about. They appear as glowing crow skulls that are out of the way, or rewards for combat encounters. You can use them to purchase new skins from a traveling merchant to customize Jack on his adventure. But those aren't the only things that are hidden off the beaten path. Venturing further, and we'll usually come to a point where Jack has to separate from his body and venture into a minigame, whether to open a door by causing an explosion or trying to destroy a graveyard. These are nice ways to break up the platforming sections and usually offer up a nice challenge. However, some of them can be a bit obnoxious. One in particular is where you have to play a whack-a-mole to activate a switch. The camera locks to the back of the room and you're told to do a dash spin, but for some reason I just couldn't find a rhythm or surefire way to do it. It just seemed like I was spinning and hoping I hit something. It wasn't game breaking, it just took a little bit longer than I would have liked, but it's worth pointing out because the camera locking in one space isn't just in these sections. Sadly, in the on-the-rail sections and boss fights, this occurs as well. The on-rail sections make sense, as with everything moving so fast, having to readjust the camera would just be a nightmare, but we'll come back to those. As far as the boss fights, on the other hand, this can be a mild distraction as you have to compensate for any jumping that needs to be done. But honestly, I didn't have any issues until the endgame boss. I won't show any spoilers for it, but just be aware that the floor drops out during the fight, and because of where the camera sits, lining up a double jump during the final portion of the fight can be a nightmare at times. It was easily the spot where I died the most. Now, as far as the on-the-rail sections goes, I for the most part really enjoyed these. Whether you're running through a burning barn or speeding down the rails in a minecart, the spectacle involved was awesome to watch. But here we had some stinkers too, mainly the kart race and the gargoyle fight. The kart race isn't so bad, but the controls on the PC are a bit strange. You have to steer the cart while spamming space to accelerate. Not so bad, but when you also have to send your crow companion to knock off opposing racers, it's a little awkward. It almost felt like I required 3 hands. But it's not the worst thing ever, especially if you remap your keys. However, the gargoyle flight feels like a mess. No matter what I did, I couldn't seem to dodge obstacles or keep the elevation high enough while trying to navigate the graveyard. Again, it's not game breaking, it'll take you a couple of tries, but it's definitely something to point out. Now, even though you're navigating through the countryside and you're on the side of the ghouls and skeletons, that doesn't give you a free pass from combat. Whether living or dead, Jack will have to evade, attack, or even get some help from a couple of friends to take down his foes. Throughout the game, Jack will receive different weapons to aid him, whether you're using a shovel, a magic sword, or even a gun. Every weapon played differently and offered up a different playstyle. But, weapons aside, you'll also have your crow companion to help take out some of the ranged enemies, or to finish off that last remaining one. What I really enjoyed was the diversity in the baddies you'll encounter on your journey. Whether it's skeletons and rats, or knights and archers, they not only match the environment and act differently to one another, but also have personality. Archers will cower when Jack gets close, and knights get winded after a spinning attack. This, and the design of the enemies, really goes a long way to making the world believable, all while having that early platformer charm. I didn't expect much of the combat in this game, to be honest, but I was blown away with how it felt. Everything was so fluid, and I didn't see any stuttering whatsoever. Whether it was fighting tons of enemies at a time, or fighting one of the amazing boss fights, it made for a really enjoyable experience. And from the visuals to the well-written banter among the cast, Pumpkin Jack delivers on fun factor across the board. Even if you don't normally like platformers, I would still say to give this game a go. The price is well worth the admission.